Good morning, VUU. God, I am overwhelmed with joy this morning as I look out at our congregation, and it's been a long time coming, but we're back again. Good morning. As many of you know, I'm Roz Hawkins, and I am privileged to serve as your worship associate today. VUU prides itself as a place of solace for individuals from all walks of life, regardless of your background, sexual orientation, prior faith experience, economic situation, race, or ethnic identity. There is a place for you here. We share a covenant, an agreement to share and support a common set of values that represents the essence of our community. So to all of you who joined us today, member, friend, seeker of faith, welcome to our community, for you are welcome here. If we do have anyone new to our community, if you're joining us in person, please stand as you're willing or able so that we can acknowledge you now. Thank you for standing. Thank you for being here. If you're joining us via Zoom, please put a message in the chat to let us know you're here and where you're from so that our virtual members can acknowledge you as well. No matter how you choose to spend this time with us, we appreciate your presence. Thank you. Now, just a few housekeeping items. Please remember to silence your phones during the service. I usually forget. If you have a little one who needs special attention, we have a baby comfort room to your right that you are welcome to use. It's supplied with speakers so you won't miss any of the service. Every week, we also offer a lay pastoral associate to provide a listening ear for those who need extra support. Today, I also fill that role. So I'm your lay pastoral associate here in the sanctuary and will be available at the front of the sanctuary after service. And for those on Zoom, Joyce Donahue would love to connect with you. She'll put a message in the chat and you can just respond to her message. So look for Joyce in the chat room today. Again, this week, we are honored to have Reverend Sarah Oglesby Donegan in the pulpit. Her topic is choosing community. And as our candidate for settled minister, the process requires not only do we have a desire for her to join us, but she has to feel that this is the place where she will be a good fit. Where in many employment situations, it feels the employer has the upper hand, this is a much more collaborative process, which I believe makes for a better outcome. Reverend Sarah comes to us knowing our strengths and weaknesses, and she comes to be a part of our community. She has taken the time this week to get to know us more personally, and many of us have had the opportunity to engage with her in meetings and other gatherings. She's been fully present with us this week. Each one of us was once new, and something that we encountered in our visits to VUU called us to return and perhaps eventually join. We found our community. Let us now, with open hearts and open minds, hear Reverend Sarah's message, have faith in the work of our ministerial search committee, evaluate your experience with her, and prepare to vote immediately after service to determine our path forward as one community we call home.
Good morning. I'm Katie Seifert. I'm the music director here, and it is a pleasure to be with you this morning. Let's take a moment to say good morning to all of our friends online. So everybody that is joining on Zoom, we see your faces. And if you are joining us through YouTube, know that you are in our hearts and our thoughts this morning and connected to us still. Let's see. Okay, our tech team is working on it. There they are. Good morning. Why don't you give us a hello? Hi, Catherine. Hi, Susan. Hi, Joyce, Williams. So nice to see your faces. Thanks for joining in with us. And then let's show all of our friends online, our friends here in the sanctuary. So now let's do a camera shot of everyone in our sanctuary, giving you a hello, right back. So on the count of three, let's say good morning. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. All right, let's stand for our opening song. This is a new song for our community. We actually made a video for our stone ceremony during the pandemic when it wasn't safe to sing the song. And now I'm so excited that we get to sing it together. It's a call and repeat. It's very simple. I'll call it, and Noelle will help you in repeating it for us to learn it this morning, okay? It's called Coming Together. I've got love.
I've got love.
I've got peace.
I've got peace.
I've got joy. Flowing like a river. I've got hope.
I've got hope.
I've got peace.
Peace.
I've got joy.
I've got joy.
Flowing like a river. One heart.
One heart.
One mind.
One mind.
One love.
Flowing like a river.
I've got hope.
I've got hope.
I've got strength.
I've got strength.
I've got faith.
I've got faith
to move every mountain. I've got hope. I've got strength.
I've got strength.
I've got faith.
I've got faith
to move every mountain. One heart.
One heart.
One mind.
One mind.
One love.
One love.
Move every mountain. Okay, you guys getting it? I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got me.
I've got me.
I've got us.
I've got us.
We're coming together. I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got me. I've got us. Coming together. One heart. One mind. One love.
One love.
Coming together. Yeah, we're coming together.
Coming together.
We're coming together.
Coming together.
And we're coming together.
Coming together.
And we're coming together. One heart.
One heart.
One mind.
One mind.
One love.
One love.
Coming together. I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got me.
I've got me.
I've got us.
I've got us.
Coming together. I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got me.
I've got me.
I've got us.
I've got us.
Coming together. One heart.
One heart.
One mind.
One mind.
One love.
One love.
We're coming together. Yeah, we're coming together.
Coming together.
Yes, we're coming together.
Coming together.
Yeah, we're coming together.
Coming together.
Yes, we're coming together.
Coming together.
One heart.
One heart.
One mind.
One mind.
One love.
One love.
Coming together. One heart.
One heart.
One mind.
One mind.
One love.
One love.
Coming together. One heart.
One heart.
One mind.
One mind.
One love.
One love.
Coming together.
And now we'll light our chalice, and please join me in saying our chalice lighting words. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love, which calls us to work for justice.
Good morning, everyone. It is time for our Time for All Ages story. If you have children with you at home on Zoom, now is the time to bring them in front of the screen. And if there are any kids in person, now's the time to come down front and sit on the floor for our story. So, finding a community, making connections. Today's book is just about that. Building friendships, about the different ways that we can find our family. The book is called A Home for Gully, A Little Seagull in the Big City by Joe Clegg, illustrated by Lala Lamola. So every day at ridiculous early o'clock, Gully's home was swept away. And then one morning, a messy, raggle-taggle, friend to fleas sort of dog lolloped up to Gully. "I'm Fetch," he said. "I fetched your stick." "Well, thank you," said Gully, "but I didn't throw the stick. You see, my house was swept away. It happens every morning." "Well, that's terrible," said Fetch. Gully giggled at the surprised look on Fetch's face and said, "Oh, I always build a new one by bedtime." So Fetch called a meeting with his fleas. And then he told Gully, "My fleas and I want to help you find a new home." "Oh, a home that doesn't get swept away, where my feet are warm and my feathers are dry and my tummy is full," said Gully dreamily. They decided they should look outside of the park. Oh, but it wasn't safer outside the park. It was scary and noisy and busy. But soon, Gully and Fetch found a grand hotel that looked warm and dry. It could have made a wonderful home. But seagulls and sausage dogs were not welcome. "Well, you didn't stay long," said a cat who had been watching from the wall. "No," said Fetch, "no home for Gully in there." "Well, I'm Madison," said the cat. "Come on, I'll help you." So Gully and Fetch followed Madison around the city and around the city and around the city. And then in a quiet corner of the library, they met a clever sort of rat, Zachary. "Can I help you find a book?" he asked. "Well, actually, I'm looking for a warm, dry home that won't get swept away," said Gully. Zachary said, "Follow me." "Everything you need is right here," said Zachary. "Wonderful," said Gully. They had cheese and tomato pizza, family-sized. And then they were able to get washed up and dried off. And Zachary opened a small door. "I think this will be just the home you're looking for," he said. The next day, Gully woke up. His feet were warm, his feathers were dry, but he didn't have everything he needed. More than anything, he wanted his pizza-eating, water-splashing, raggle-taggle sort of a family. And that's what they wanted too. Home doesn't always look the way we expect it to. So we are going to go back to an old tradition and sing our children out with our Bridge of Love. So if you're sitting on the aisles, you want to reach across to the person across the aisle from you and form sort of a London bridge. If you're behind that person, feel free to put your hands on their shoulders.
We're going to sing the song we learned last week. It's a call and repeat. We say, thank you for the children's spirit. Thank you. Thank you for this children. 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 These beautiful, these wonderful, these beautiful children. These beautiful, these wonderful, these beautiful children. Thank you for these kids, Spirit. Thank you for these kids. Thank you for these kids, Spirit. Thank you for these kids. These beautiful, these wonderful, these beautiful kids. These beautiful, these wonderful, these beautiful kids. Thank you for the children. 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 These beautiful, these wonderful, these beautiful children. These beautiful, these wonderful, these beautiful children.
So I have a special edition for you today. We have recently had one of our whole lives, our OWL class about human sexuality for our 8th and 9th graders. And today we want to celebrate them. So I'm going to ask Janet Nash and Izzy Hyman to come on up and have a little celebration for you.
While the kids are coming up, I have to say that this is probably true for about half of you, that these kids now know more about sex than you do. So, honest, accurate information about sexuality changes lives. It dismantles stereotypes and assumptions, builds self-acceptance and self-esteem, fosters healthy relationships, improves decision-making, and has the potential to save lives. In an inclusive and developmentally appropriate manner, the program Our Whole Lives, also known as OWL, addresses sensitive topics that other sexuality education, especially those available in public schools, typically exclude. The Unitarian Universalist Association and the United Church of Christ developed the curriculum, but it is completely secular and free of specific religious doctrine or reference. However, the underlying values of the program do reflect the justice-oriented and inclusiveness traditions of both denominations and gives clear messages about self-worth, sexual health, and responsibility. 7 curricula speak to participants' needs by age group. There are separate classes for grades K through 1, 4 through 6, 7 through 9, 10 through 12, young adult, adults, and older adults. Izzy Hyman and I were the grades 7 through 9 facilitators this year. This is Izzy, in case you didn't know. For grades 7 through 9, OWL is a 26-week course, the longest of the 7 age groups offered. It provides a sexuality education program that models and teaches caring, compassion, respect, and justice. It is a holistic program that moves beyond the intellect to address the attitudes, values, and feelings that youth have about themselves and the world. It includes the basics of anatomy and physiology, but it also includes sessions on body image, social media and the internet, bullying and bystander responsibilities, and consent education. Our class also includes a condom shopping event to get youth over the initial embarrassment of purchasing these items for themselves. It also includes role plays to walk teens through real life situations, such as initiating conversations about relationship bottom lines and responding to arguments against using protection. The youth have been engaged in this 26-week course since August of last year. That is a half a year of meeting for 1.5 hours weekly, except for very few holidays. It was a long haul, and they hung in there. We are proud to present you our grades 7 through 9 OWL participants. Okay, Izzy is going to read out each name and they'll come up and get their certificate and shake our hands. We would ask that you please hold your applause until the end.
Alex Clunin Schulte. B. Hardy. Avella Knutson. Zoe McGinley. David Pugh. Simon Reynolds. Junie Shatton. Zachary Schneider. Clarissa Stiff. Bradley Weiss. And Troy Habib, Owen Strojan, Edie Lacroix, and Ash Carter. Get a round of applause.
Congratulations, students. That's quite an accomplishment. And now we're going to go into our time of centering. And for that, I have a reading. Can everyone hear me? Okay, very good. Thank you. Because we spill not only milk, knocking it over with an elbow when we reach to wipe a small face, but also spill seed on the soil we thought was fertile, but isn't. And also spill whole lives and only later see it in fading light. How much is gone and we hadn't intended it. Because we tear not only cloth, thinking to find a true edge and instead making only a hole, but also tear friendships when we grow and whole mountainsides because we are so many and we want to live right now where Black oaks lived, once very quietly and still, because we forgot not only what we were doing in the kitchen and have to go back to the room where we were in before, remember why we left, but also forget entire lexicons of joy and how we lost ourselves for hours. Yet all the time were clearly found and held, and also forget the hungry, not at our table, because we weep not only at jade plants caught in freeze and precious papers left in rain, but also at legs that no longer walk or never did, although from the outside they look like most others, and also weep at words once said as though they might be rearranged but which, once loose, refuse to return, and we are helpless. Because we are imperfect and love so deeply, we will never have enough days. We need the gift of sharing, of starting over, beginning again, this constant good, this saving hope, by Nancy Schaefer. May it be so.
this story from the poet Naomi Shihab Nye when she was wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal after learning that her flight had been delayed for 4 hours. She heard an announcement: if anyone in the vicinity of gate A4 understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, when pauses these days, gate A4 was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled to the floor, wailing. "Help," said the flight agent. "Talk to her. What is the problem?" We told her the flight was going to be late, and she did this. I stooped to put my arm around the woman and spoke haltingly. And the minute she heard words, any words she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatment the next day. I said, "No, we're fine. You'll get there just later. Who is picking you up? I'll call him." We called her son. I spoke in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and ride next to her. She talked to him. And then we called her other sons just for the fun of it. And then we called my dad. And he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found out, of course, they had 10 shared friends. And then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took up 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling of her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She had pulled a sack of homemade mamoul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts, from her bag, and was offering them to all the women at the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely lady from Laredo, we were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. And then the airline broke out free apple juice from huge coolers, and 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving it, and they were covered in powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend, by now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing with green furry leaves. Such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant. Always stay rooted somewhere. And I looked around the gate of that late and weary ones, and I thought, this is the world I want to live in, the shared world. Not a single person in that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those other women, too. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. So what does it mean to choose community? And how does this choice alter what's available to us and our capacity to be available for others? Now, unlike choosing to belong to a community, we don't choose the families that we are placed with by birth or the legal structures created to provide us families. As we age, we have increasing agency over whom we will call friends and family until finally we reach a point where we get to choose the network of people we will call home, the people who will make up the web of relationships that has become our community. Choosing community means more than choosing individual relationships, because belonging is more complicated, right? In a congregational community, there are many levels of intimacy and differentiation, which we can hopefully navigate with love and care, with shared commitment to something bigger than ourselves. The beloved community is our aspiration for a community that dismantles systems of inequality and violence, a community that manages difference and conflict in ways that affirm our shared humanity. Now, in the Hebrew Bible, The story of Ruth and Naomi, we find a story that gives us some clues as to how we might navigate the complexity of choosing community. The two women are family through marriage. They come from different cultures with a history of conflict. Naomi's family moved to Moab during a famine in Judah, and her sons marry there. And when Naomi leaves to return to Judah after her husband and sons have all died, she tries to send her daughters-in-law back to their families and homes and culture. They stand at the border between their lands, and she tells them to go back. And one returns. But Ruth chooses Naomi instead, and she chooses to follow her into a world that is vastly different from Moab. And this requires a kind of bravery, a leap of faith on the part of Ruth. She opens herself to new traditions and new religious beliefs. She chooses a new community. Now, many of us have been in the position of leaving an old set of friends and family behind to move somewhere new. We've left jobs and colleagues. We've moved from one school or college to another. We've married into new sets of people and traditions, and we've chosen new congregations to belong to too. Many of us have also experienced the death of a loved one or a divorce, or even just changes in leadership of an organization we serve and work in. Major shifts in the landscapes of our hearts and our homes and our daily lives. And while the changes might not have been as large as what Ruth faced moving from Moab to Judah, all of these involved changes, risks, and grief, as well as opportunities and rewards. We've had to follow along until we figured things out, to adjust our expectations and make room for things to work differently, just as Ruth followed the people gleaning the fields and learned to do as they did in her new context. When we choose a new community or face challenges and changes in our current community, we don't always know what's in store for us. In Judah, Ruth encounters Boaz, and he welcomes her and admires her hard work. He smooths the way for her, but she just works harder. In fact, his willingness to welcome her and give her a place among the others drives her to be more generous and to go above and beyond. And I wonder if you can recall when someone made your path easier, welcomed you when you were unsure, given you a place when you had none, and provided protection when you needed it. Boaz is generous, and when she asks why, he tells her it is because her own generosity to Naomi has reached his ears, and he is moved by this. When she chose to join Naomi and provide for her, her generosity called to the generosity of Boaz. When has your generosity increased the gratitude and generosity of others around you? When we choose a community, we create a space for the community and for other people to choose us back. As her story unfolds, Ruth finds herself remarried and able to offer Naomi the opportunity to be a grandma and to be nurtured by a larger family again. A flourishing life has grown by the choice she made at the borderlands. Now, part of this choice came from her deep sense of loyalty, and I don't mean the kind of loyalty that comes from threats or the promise of a reward. To me, those aren't loyalty. This is the kind of loyalty that comes from caring for one another and suffering together. The kind of loyalty that is passed back and forth between people who understand that we need each other. The kind we find when we step out of our comfort zone and we offer to walk with someone when they don't expect us to, and when in fact, it will take us somewhere new and even uncomfortable. The kind of loyalty that makes us a little bit vulnerable. There are so many moments when we might be standing at the borderlands without even knowing it, when we have the opportunity to cross the threshold from being in the background and mostly uninvolved to being fully committed to a relationship or a community of relationships. And sometimes that threshold shows up in a moment where we were about to judge someone else as unworthy of our loyalty and friendship. And we must decide whether we can look deeper to connect and understand one another. Sometimes that threshold is an invitation to show up in a new way, to engage in shared work and help provide for a shared future. And sometimes that threshold is an opportunity to make room for someone new, to see their needs and to smooth the way for them as they cross into your world. Boaz didn't have to help Ruth, but in helping her, he also created new belonging and a new family in his own life. Where you go, I will go, beloved. You, your people, are my people. So for me, the idea of a congregation is to cast a bigger net. A congregation is a place where there are more people to catch us, a place with greater capacity and longevity, a place that offers the possibility of renewal. Now, I've experienced this over and over again for the last 30 years. And one of the most powerful experiences I had came during a time when our youngest child was spending a lot of time in and out of hospitals. They were in ICU twice. And during those years, they were on those 2 times on the brink of respiratory failure and intubation. I don't even have words for what we went through as parents during those times. It was spiritually, emotionally, physically, and financially devastating. Many people in our lives shared their love and concern. But it was our congregation, our minister and members of the congregation that really showed up in unexpected ways. Even people we didn't know well made sure we had gift cards for the restaurants next to the hospital, brought stuffed animals and books, sat with us in silence and prayer, and kept looking after us after the immediate danger was gone. They helped us financially too, with a small grant to help with uncovered medical costs that were imploding our budget. Like Gully and the Time for All Ages story, the community we chose was willing to go the extra mile for us. Even if we were dealing with a sick kid in the hospital or were looking for a better place to call home. And they were the people that we were happy to find and sing with every Sunday and throughout the week, all around the city we lived in. I also think about belonging and choosing community on a larger scale, about loyalty and shared futures when the stakes are high. When we consider the places and spaces where belonging is most at risk because of war and borders that are protected by armed soldiers and live barbed wire. When we consider people whose histories are burdened by a long series of boundaries and differences meant to discourage any sense of belonging to each other. How can we find ways to choose community in those spaces and places? When we consider cultural practices and rules and laws that are made to exclude rather than include, how can we choose community? When we stand at the border and find ourselves willing to be a bridge, but those on either side refuse to cross over, how can we choose community? Behind the story of Naomi and Ruth is also the story of Moab and Judah, the story of places and people often found at war with one another for resources and at odds with one another over customs and beliefs. And yet in this story, people from Judah cross over when there is famine, and while they are there, they build families and alliances and have long-lasting consequences. They begin to belong to one another in new ways. Now, often our borders are not drawn in the sand, but are drawn in our practices with one another, our assumptions and beliefs, our ideas about how things must be done and where power is derived. Our borders are drawn by loyalties, whom we will support and ally with, and whom we will turn our backs on. And we live in a time where so many of our public officials and elected leaders are leading from a place of transactional belonging and decision-making. Quid pro quo, right? What's in it for me? And they would have us believe that we do not belong to one another, that I am not yours and you are not mine. And we can't choose to belong when that choice is not available, when our own voice has been silenced, or when our survival is at stake. And too often we see one another one-dimensionally as a service or a task, as a short-term commitment that ends when our needs have been met or our work is done. Choosing community is more than this. Creating belonging weaves us into the fabric of connections between people, allows us to find ways to maintain our identities while building something larger together. Belonging and loyalty, these are never and should never be transactional. When we can transcend many borders and create deeper, wider belonging, when we shift from merely transactional encounters and policies to relational ones, when we do this, we create a different future, one with less violence and more interrelatedness. The world of relational decision-making works from a sense of Harambe, the idea that my well-being and yours are forever tied, interdependent as the web of life. When we work from a place of building a shared future, we have to acknowledge each other and make room for different needs to be met. We choose each other despite our differences. Now, congregations can't be sustained by a transactional system. Amen? They can't. The idea that a congregation will meet every individual's needs and expectations like a paid-for service is a mistake. There may be things you want and are looking for in a congregation, but ultimately, what congregations are about is belonging with and serving each other and serving a set of values that we share by working together. It's about answering, whose am I? Congregations are about our relationships with each other, not what we get from each other. Yeah. So developing the capacity to define and defend the common good over private and individual desires is part of building our capacity to choose belonging. Those who tend fires, who sow and reap the seeds of change, not just for themselves, but for the wider circle of life on our planet, these are the ones we must follow. Good leaders will share leadership and protect and center those most vulnerable or impacted while finding strategies to share resources and make the most of the conditions we are living in. Our rootedness is something we carry with us, like the potted plant taken on a long journey. It's also something we cultivate together. So as we collectively re-engage the work of shared community in our congregations, I want to reflect back to you the treasure that this place is and the potential for the kind of place it may yet be. Listening to your stories this week about why you chose this congregation to call home and how you've been called to serve each other and the community around you has been a true blessing. Here, people experiencing homelessness have been given a place to sleep and eat and recover, a place that honors their inherent worth and dignity. Immigrants seeking asylum and safety have found support and compassion in the middle of a journey of endurance and sacrifice. Parents have found a place to widen the circle of support for their work in raising kids while centering the values of diversity, openness, and responsibility, as well as spiritual development and a sense of belonging. Elders have found a place to continue to offer the talents they've developed over time, while also having a community of support and care for the journey of aging. Adults in search of spiritual deepening, justice making, and joyful communion have found kindred spirits for the journey of living. And children and youth have found a place where they can make friends across the generations and be treated as important members of the community throughout their journeys of growing. To serve in such a community is both an honor and a blessing. The challenge will be to continue to invite new people to join the community and share its calling to a doctrine of love, its prayer to be of service, and its commitment to do the work of justice. And I missed a moment just as I was coming up here because I was so excited to be with you. I actually wanted to invite Roz to share just a smidge of her reasons for choosing this community. And so I'm going to invite her to come up and do that just for a moment, and then we'll finish out together.
Reverend Sarah did ask me to do this, and I left the written portion at home, so I'm going to wing it. But VUU and the stories that Reverend Sarah just talked about are very real. And many of us have shared those when we walked in the door of VUU and there was something that called us and said, this is home. This is the place that I want to be, and these are my people. And I experienced that when I first came to VUU as well. My husband was already a friend who attended regularly. And every Sunday that we came together, a wonderful, wonderful woman by the name of Mary Lou Coy would run to him and greet him and give him the biggest hug. And I said, God, how wonderful that even if I am not here, I know that there's someone who cares for him as well. What a joy it was to join a group that was so welcoming, that every time I walked into this place, whether I heard it or not, I saw the joy. I felt it, and I knew I was home. So that's my experience with VUU. I treasure each and every one of you, and I'm glad to be a part.
So may you continue to follow this path together. May you be known by the company you keep, the ones who circle round to tend these fires, the ones who will lead us into the deeper work of building the beloved community. Where you go, I will go, beloved. May it be so. We choose community, and in choosing community, we bring our many resources together to build the beloved community and maintain the web of relatedness that brings us hope, joy, sanctuary, spiritual deepening, transformative change in the name of justice. Thank you each for being the ones who tend the fires, who sow and reap the seeds, and the ones who lead with love. Won't you join us in the blessing of the offering as you are able, knowing that your presence is itself a gift for which we are deeply grateful. It is time now that we thrive.
shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the web. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the web. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the web. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Please stand. Let's pray together. We will thrive now.
Ye shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now. We thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the web. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
And our closing words today, the church is a body. The church is a body. May this body breathe and be together in the spirit of hope. May it feel held by comfort. Those who seek consolation, may they find it in the solace of this moment. The church is a body. It is strong as all the people who have ever gathered within its walls. It is the power of all they dreamed and all they have done. The church is a body. It is vulnerable as the most newborn and untried of its members. It is ancient and it is ever new. The church is a story. It is the story of our lives that are interwoven, brought together in this place and this time for the simple purpose of caring for one another and helping one another along the arduous path from birth to death. The church is a vision. It is a vision of unity amid diversity. It is a vision of reverence for all of creation. It is a vision that beckons us beyond the concerns of our own skins. In the silence, may we abide as one body in the spirit of faith, hope, and love. That is the story and the vision of this church. May it be so.
All right, let's close with a song. The words to this song you have heard already said. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you lie, I will lie. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. So please stand. This may be a new song for some of you, but I promise you'll catch on quickly. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, beloved. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, beloved. Where you lie, I will lie. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. My people, your divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, refugee. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, refugee. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, refugee. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, refugee. Where you lie, I will lie. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, children. Where you lie, are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, elder. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, elder. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, elder. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, elder. Where you lie, I will lie. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Let's sing this looking at each other. If you're comfortable, grab an arm or hold a hand, or just recognize that this is our home, our community. Where you go, I will go, my friends. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, my friends. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, my friends. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, my friends. Where you lie, I will lie. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine.
And what a privilege to share it with Reverend Sarah. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again.
everyone. We need to have the congregational meeting immediately now. It's very important that you don't leave. There'll be a 5-minute break and you need to sign in.